Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islam and Life with me, Roshan Mohammed Sari. In 2011, the last year when accurate figures were available, it was reported that the United Kingdom had around 100,000 converts to Islam, of which 66% were women. And there were an estimated 5,200 conversions to Islam in that year alone. This means that more people are converting to Islam than any other religion in the UK. And that's happening at a time when media and state demonization of Islam and Muslims has never been greater. On today's show, we'll be asking how this phenomenon can be explained. Why do so many converts feel estranged and isolated? And can they act as a bridge between communities to enhance mutual understanding?
Despite the general suspicion and fear of Muslims, the West is seeing an increase in numbers of converts to Islam. It is evident from media coverage of Western converts to Islam that these converts are perceived to have turned their back on Western culture in favor of a new faith and identity. This is because both Islamophobia and lack of understandings of the conversion process support the view that an individual has to be either Western or Muslim. The reliability of converts is often a subject of media reporting, either associating them with radical Islam and terrorism or by labeling female converts as backward for embracing a religion which oppresses women. Many converts are also accused of embracing Islam in order to marry a Muslim, and therefore their decision is judged as not a rational preference for the religion. Because converts to Islam are robbed of their Western identity and reliability in the eyes of the general public, their attempts to defend Islam and their personal choices are easily dismissed.
To discuss the topic of converts to Islam in the West, we're joined by Professor Tariq Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum, Professor Ramadan. This is a time, as I've already mentioned, this is a time of massive demonization of Muslims, both perhaps by the state through things like the Prevent Cancer Extremism strategy and through the media. Yet people are still converting to Islam in their droves here in the West. How can that be explained?
Yes, I think it's important, and we saw this just after 2001 in the United States, just with all this demonization about Islam, the media coverage, which was very negative at that time, as much as we have it now in Europe. But it's not new, but it's now massive everywhere. You can see that, for example, in countries like Germany, France, you get up to 75% of the people have a negative image of Islam. So it's just, and at the same time, the people are interested to listen more, to try to get, all our fellow citizens in Europe or in the States or in the West are not, simplistic about media. They have a sense that sometimes things are not right. So they go for more knowledge and they try to understand. And some of them are discovering that the media coverage has nothing to do with the very essence of the message. More than that, what you also have, and this is also very important in the West, is the Muslim presence. That you have colleagues, you have neighbors that are Muslims in the daily life. And through this, you can see that the younger generation has less problem than the people who are only watching TV or listening to radio. So we have a double phenomenon here.
What do you think the quality of these conversions are like? I mean, some critics would say that a lot of people are converting because they're marrying Muslims. Some would say that, who work on dawah stalls, they tell me that people are converting, but they don't necessarily stay Muslim.
Yes, that's a very important point, because many Muslims are very happy with the number who are entering. And I remember once an imam in the United States saying, yes, you are very happy at the front door, saying, oh, you are welcome, but you don't look at the back door, how many are leaving. And some are leaving, so we have to be very cautious. Oh yes, some are leaving.
Why do you think they're leaving?
So, because exactly for that, we need to look at the quality, why the people are converting. So it's true that some are converting for the sake of marriage, and we have to look at this. By the way, it's more the men who are converting for marrying than the women very often, because the women are they are not.
They can't,
they can be. Yeah. So, and then what we also see at the grassroots level is the quality of the conversion by women. It's very often much better than what we have with men. Why? Because the commitment to be a Muslim woman with all what it means in the West are higher than what we are expecting from men. So I would say that this is something which is important. The second is that depending on the way the people are looking at Islam and studying Islam, you have level of qualities that are very different, diverse. So we have very high quality with some people who are educated, or some people at the grassroots level who are taking from Islam the spiritual dimension, social justice, understanding that, for example, the deep teachings or lessons that we can do from Islam, no racism, social justice, freedom, these are essential things, and with no system which is coming like what we have in Christianity, for example, with a church. We don't have this. So there is something which is deep spirituality and independence. So some are attracted, and it's completely different from what they got from their previous religious teachings, for example.
Should Muslims be doing more to ensure that those that do convert stay Muslim? Do we have those support structures here?
We don't, and that's the problem. We are very happy to welcome them. You know, I don't like this business of, you know, this da'wah conference when you have people come and convert in front of the people, and we are very happy as it is. No, that's not the way, in fact. And this is why I'm completely against what I see done by some, you know, leaders and some organizations, making it public as if you have to celebrate. And
doesn't that encourage others, though, Professor Ramadan?
Yes,
it has its own value, surely?
Yes, but I don't like this. I really think that it's a personal journey. It has to be deep. It has to be done with a deep understanding quality. The question of our future has nothing to do with numbers. And it was said by the Prophet, peace be upon him, ﷺ, himself, saying what? He's saying, one day you're going to be millions, but you will not count for nothing. You will count for nothing.
So you'd rather have kind of 100 genuine conversions, deep spiritual conversions, than 1,000 superficial ones.
Exactly, exactly. It means that we have to think about how do we teach, how do we welcome, and how do we go along. Because, for example, we can't deny the fact that some people who converted to Islam had the feeling that they are second-class Muslims in the way we deal with them, because of their origin. It's as if, and especially with Arabs, because we think that Islam is coming from the Arabic culture. In fact, to Islamize yourself, you have to Arabize yourself, and as long as you are not like us in culture, you are less like us in religion, which is completely wrong.
I read a report by the University of Cambridge a few weeks ago, published a few months ago rather, about Muslim converts, and it said that there's a perception in the public that a lot of Muslim converts are converting to a radical form of Islam. Is this a serious issue, or are the numbers tiny and they just get lots of media attention?
It's a serious, even though it's a minority, for sure. We don't have, this is not the mainstream things that we can see on the ground with most people becoming Muslims and being involved in the community. We have lots of converted who are, you know, in English we say reverted, as if it's coming back to the original religion. But I think we have lots of people doing a good job in the mainstream, following what we are hoping, which is the middle path between, you know, being very clear about our religions and the principles, and at the same time facing the challenges of our time. This is what we want. Now you have people who are coming to Islam, and we need to understand that conversion has to do with conviction, but has to do also with psychology.
Yeah.
So sometimes you look at your past, and what is said to, you know, some trends that we have, for example, the Salafi literalist or the Wahhabi, can attract people out of what? By saying, the very moment you become a Muslim, you cut yourself from your past. So the psychological factor is, you know, it's a newborn Muslim in a way where you cut, and they are telling you the more you are against who you were, the more you are going to be a Muslim. And say, no, your past is a school. Your past is you. You are, and if God called you, it's through your past, not against your past. And then you have to take lessons or to draw lessons from the past. This is what they get from the literalist or the Wahhabi. This is not what it's taught. So we have this. Add to this that sometimes there is something that Islam is against races, but some Muslims are racist in the way they deal with Islam.
Black Muslims seem to have a tougher time when they convert than white Muslims, for example.
It's just unbelievable. Go to the United States of America and discuss with the African-American Muslims. They are saying it's as if we are second-class Muslims. It's as if the people who came as immigrants, Muslims, are coming and teaching us Islam as if we have nothing to say, while in fact this should be the other way around.
Yeah.
It could be good for Muslim immigrants in the States or even here to listen more about the convert, to listen more about the people who are living there or living here in Britain and in Europe, because they have the culture, they know their environment, so they have to give us more about the surrounding culture, and we are doing the opposite. We want to impose not only a way of being a Muslim, but the cultures of origin, and the culture of origin are not as Islamic as that.
I mean, the report that I was alluding to, it did say that when new Muslims come into Islam, they still feel isolated, and there's a feeling of suspicion, perhaps, or estrangement from the Muslim communities themselves.
Yes, in three levels. The first one is the perception that as you are a new Muslim, you are less a Muslim than us, so we have to give you everything. So the origins is playing on this, except in one situation, if the one is well known.
Yes,
after 2 weeks,
they're put on a pedestal, aren't they?
Exactly.
Perhaps before they're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, after 2 weeks, for example, Roger Garaudy, the French philosopher,
Yes.
was asked about fatwa.
Yes.
Look at the way Cat Stevens was welcomed. And he's a great guy, he's a good Muslim, but still, it's not because you were well known.
Does that feed into our inferiority complex a little bit? That, I mean, to call a spade in terms of, you know, a famous white person converts to Islam, it's like it validates our religion.
Exactly, and that's completely wrong. It's just he is a human being, and it shows something which has, we are driven and sometimes distorting our understanding that the equality between human beings is, don't tell me who you were before, but come to this Islam which is calling for equality. So you have this perception. The second problem that we have with people is that, as you said at the beginning, we don't have structures, we don't have institutions, not enough, at least we have some, but going along the people, that you enter into a community and then you have people teaching and following, and it should be a family, and family is just, it should be a house within, and within the house there is a family. This is the meaning of Ummah, and I think that this is missing.
Professor Ramadan, thank you for the moment. We're going to continue this conversation in a minute or so, but your comments are an integral part of this program, so this is what you sent us this week.
This week we asked, despite rising Islamophobia, why is Western conversion to Islam also on the rise? Hamid from Belgium said, even though the publicity around Islam is negative in the Western media, it is still publicity, and it makes people curious to know what Islam is. Once they know, many realize the truth of life, and thus conversion is on the rise. Michael from Australia said, there are many people in the West who have been searching for meaning in life because of so much commercialization that fails to satisfy the soul. Despite the rising Islamophobia, those who are truly searching find their answers in Islam. And Susan from the UK said, Islamophobia makes you question why there is so much negativity towards a certain faith, and it actually spurs you to study Islam, and when you do, you realize why there is so much effort to hide the truth.
The reason I think people are still attracted to Islam, many Christians, they convert to Islam, is because our religion, as I perceive it, is very kind. It teaches you all the time to be kind, to help to the close ones, not only close ones, to other people, to be more attentive to people who are inferior.
I think because of the true Islam is a true religion, so regardless of Islamophobia or the media trying to make the phobia against Islam, still Islam is spreading because it's a reflection or indication of Islam is a true religion.
Because they see the right way. This is the right way. You know, I mean, after all, you know, nobody forced them to convert to Islam, but they saw to themselves and they discovered to themselves that this is the right religion for everyone, not only for the Muslim, not only for the Christian or Jew, for everyone.
I think it's connecting with Muslims. So I always grew up with Muslims, so therefore I knew what Islam was. Whereas most of the people I see who are Islamophobic, they've never encountered Islam before, they've probably never met a Muslim before, they've never read the Quran, they've never even studied anything about Islam, they just have perceptions without even investigating it themselves. So I think that's where most of it comes from. I've never met an Islamophobe who has read the Quran yet, so.
Non-Muslims with the strength of character needed to think outside of the constraints of their pre-existing understanding of reality and their peer group, who were not swayed by the atheist propaganda, are unlikely to be swayed by the much more flimsy Islamophobic propaganda. Rather, the hype about Islam just keeps it in everybody's minds and forces them to give it serious consideration.
My question would be, I don't really understand why media is showing Islam as a terrorist religion, because it is not true.
That's all the comments we have for this week. If you'd like to have your views featured in the show, be sure to follow us on Facebook or join us on Twitter. Now you can send your own videos with your comments and even your questions to islamandlife@presstv.com.
Before that report, we talked about how converts to Islam are perhaps not supported within the Muslim community itself. I want to talk a little bit more about the majority community here in the West, because in a way, we live in a kind of a quite aggressively secular society, don't we? I mean, someone converting to a strange faith, I mean, that must be quite strange for the majority community here, right?
Yes, and it's happening for many people. In fact, the perception, it's not only a perception, this is the reality, it's rejected by the people because they are perceived as you are betraying us, you are going on the other side. So the perception is quite negative. At the same time, you have people, and it depends on the settings, it depends on the organizations. You also have people who are very keen to speak to converts, and they are, in a way, helping them to still feel part of the society. So it's a two-way process. We need, within our Muslim communities, to get a deep sense of what is happening in psychological terms to people that sometimes we are putting at the forefront too quickly, or people that we are neglecting too quickly as well, and on the long run. And I think that our understanding of being a Western Muslim, being based in, it's also part of how do we deal with the new converts, and how do we go against, double standards, first-class Muslims, second-class Muslims, alienating some of them, within the mosque or within our organizations. We have to do something, and at the same time, we also have to take into account the perception of the society around that are targeting some of these converts.
I mean, Muslim women have it particularly bad, don't they? Especially perhaps those who decide to wear the hijab or even the niqab within their own families, getting rejected perhaps by their own kind of communities.
Yes, and that's true. The discourse that we need to have here, coming from Muslim scholars and Muslim Islamic institutions, it's how do we deal with your family, the respective family, when you converse to Islam, and someone saying you don't speak to them, you don't invite them.
That's not the way.
That's not the way. That cannot be the way. So you don't say salam, you don't go to eat there, you cut the links. No. We have to be here with a very powerful discourse on show them that when you became a Muslim, you are even a better son and better daughter. How? By serving them, by being never cut with your parents, never cut even with your society. So, for example, as I said about the past, but it's also about the culture. If we are truly British and Muslim, the British culture is not per se against Islam. So let them also value the British culture that they have, the European culture that they have, or the Western culture.
I mean, theoretically, these new converts could be a wonderful bridge, couldn't they, between Muslim communities and non-Muslim communities. But is that actually happening, do you think?
It's not, and it's not because the way Muslims today think about authority or who has the right to speak, ask the sheikh, ask the alim. He's the one who is giving you the fatwa or the legal opinion. We're not talking about fatwa here. Our obsession with fatwa everywhere is making it very difficult. They have an authority. This is what I'm calling some of these people who know the surrounding culture. Ulama al-waqi'. They are the scholars of the environment. So we need to ask them to in fact have a better involvement from the new converts to tell the Muslims about the culture, to take advantage of. You know, a culture is not only a language, it's a feeling, it's a psychology, it's a collective psychology, and they have to have their authority in this, and we have to bring them in some of our organizations, in some of our activities. This is where they have an authority. But if the only religious authority is about the legal and not the cultural, we know, you and me, living in the West, how culture is very much influencing our behavior. So we need to get this and enhance their presence within the community.
I mean, I guess what we're kind of, the nub of this is, can you be both fully Muslim and, you know, fully British or fully American? Is that possible, or is it either or?
It is, as it should be with all our respective cultures. If you follow everything in the Arab culture, you are not going to be a good Muslim. Through your Islamic principle, you have to challenge some of the cultural features. You have to do exactly the same in the West, but not, as you said at the beginning, through a minority complex or through an inferiority complex. I cannot really be. No, there are many things in the West, in the British culture, that are more Islamic than things that we find in the Arab culture. So you take this. As to the others, you have to be selective. Our way of life as Muslims is wherever we are, we have to be selective. And being selective is to come back to something which is essential in the Quran, al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa an-nahy anil munkar. Commending the good and resisting the bad. But you have to be aware, you have to check, you have to study. Not to take an essentialized position, everything which is British, or everything which is Westerner, it's bad, and everything is coming from our cultures of origin. No. And I want to I would repeat this to Muslims. Do you think that our presence in the West is by accident? Of course not. It helps us to reread our sources and to come with principles, and not only the cultural dresses of the countries of origin, because many things there are wrong in many ways, not only when it comes to women, but when it comes to the human dignity, when it comes to racism. In our countries of origin, look at what is happening in the Middle East. There is a great deal of racism. We have been in history involved in slavery. So we have to free ourselves, and our Western experience could help us to come back to the very essence of our religion.
I just want to take you back to the report that we were both watching. I mean, one of the ladies in the video said that the media demonizes Islam. I just want a kind of quick reaction to that from you.
Yes, and I think what she said, it's also very important. We are also, you speak about Islam, you speak about violence, we speak about terrorism today. It's connecting Islam to terrorism, or connecting to controversial issues, which is the headscarf, which is homosexuality, and that's it. And we keep on repeating. But at the end, we as Muslims, we have to respond to this. We have to, but not only responding to this. What is important for us now, and with the help of the converts, is to come with a positive, assertive discourse about who we are, our principles. We keep on 99% of our appearance in the media in the West has nothing to do about talking about spirituality, talking about this openness of Islam. It's talking about on the reactive, so on the defensive. So it's a reactive mode that we have. We need really here.
We're always on the back foot, aren't we? It's very hard to give that positive message when
so this is where
we're in the defensive mode all the time.
Exactly. This is why we have to come with a very clear discourse. We need to have some converts speaking in the name of Islam in the West and say, why? Why did I come to this religion? The spiritual message, my autonomy, the way I can find that my personality is blossoming out of this spiritual journey, and not only to talk about these attacks that are targeted, and this is vicious. This is a media struggle, battle, that we need to also know how to deal with it.
So in the kind of minute we have left, a final word of advice from you to Muslim converts, and perhaps to Muslims themselves, how to deal with Muslim converts.
What you said is very important. From within, we really have to get a better sense of our brotherhood and the need for all the competences to come together and to speak much more about the essence of our religion, not only in a way where the converts are coming from the other side. No, they are with us, our brothers and sisters, and with them we will build our future.
Thank you very much for enlightening us today, Professor Tariq Ramadan. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you to our esteemed guest, Professor Tariq Ramadan, for enlightening us with his views, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Islam and Life.